And so now we're going to go to Stephen Huff. And Stephen, if you want to show yourself and get your PowerPoint up and going, and why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do for Farm Bureau right now.
Okay, so I'm Stephen Huff, and I'm going to just start working on the sharing my screen business here. I'm the Upper East Tennessee Farm Bureau Field Director. Some people say fieldman, field person, field services. We've been called several different names, all good, of course, as far as I've heard anyway. So I serve 12 counties in Upper East Tennessee, from Cocke County up to Claiborne, east to Mountain City. And there are 7 others, so there are 8 total across the state, range anywhere from 8 counties to 14 counties that my colleagues share. And the long and short of it, we are liaison for Columbia to each of those counties. So each county has a board of directors, a president, and a group of folks that meet monthly and conduct business, not only insurance business, but the federation side of things. And so I'll get kind of into that, but I visit with each of those counties every month, not just in their board meeting, but if they have issues that arise or if they may need something. And a lot of times I'm a mail carrier. They may order things from Columbia, which we call home office, that we pick up and deliver for them to try to save our members money and postage and things like that. So we may wear many hats in one day, but you'll see some of those as we go through this slide set. And I'd love to show you my face. I've got a really nice Farm Bureau shirt on, clean and crisp press here, but I was playing my video earlier, and for some reason my computer doesn't know that it has a camera. It's saying that I need to plug the camera up or do something, and the camera is built in the screen. So I'm not sure what else to do. If y'all are okay with not seeing my ugly mug, we'll just go right on through here if that's okay.
We are fine with that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And this is, very informal. If you see that somebody's got their hand up or throw a question in the chat, feel free to stop me, interrupt anytime, and we'll answer the question then and move on as we go. So as you can see, Tennessee Farm Bureau, next year is our 100-year anniversary from when we started. It's a grassroots organization. We started back in the day because we saw a need for farmers in the field to have a voice, not only at the state capitol in Nashville, but as well as in DC, because as Vera Ann will tell you, at the right time of year, it's very hard to get away from the farm, go visit with legislators and tell them the issues. Vera Ann done a really good job at getting out and going and getting things done, but there are a lot of folks that maybe don't try as hard as her and getting things done. And so we're kind of that voice of agriculture in Tennessee. Most states in the U.S. have a state farm bureau, and so we've got the American Farm Bureau that has the ear of those Congress folks and legislators in D.C. as well as the president. So as I go through here, you'll see a lot of things that you folks may have already benefited from or you didn't know about that hopefully you'll benefit from in the future, that not only Tennessee Farm Bureau but American Farm Bureau had the voice for you all in getting some things done. And so on there you can see our mission and what we stand for. Is that in the way? Are y'all seeing the participants on, or are you just seeing the slides?
I think we're just seeing the slides.
Okay, good deal. So we're solely a member organization, and right now we've got over 677,000 members across the state of Tennessee. And so if you have any type of insurance with us, you are required to be a member. And there are many benefits of being a member of Farm Bureau, not just having someone to develop and promote and foster those relationships across the state and nation, but some local perks as well. And so we look at that and see that we're in the households of 669,000 families, which we reach about 2.3 million Tennesseans. So this just gives you a real quick introduction as far as how Farm Bureau Federation is set up. We've got a president that's elected to a 2-year term. There's a vice president, same thing, board of directors, and then that board consists of a group of different folks. And this is very similar to how the county boards are set up, with the exception of the Chancellor UT and all that. We don't have the Chancellor UT on all the county boards, but we do have someone that is in charge of the Women's Committee. We have someone that gives insurance reports. There's Y&R chairs in each county. And Y&R is a young farmer and rancher, and we'll get into that as well. This kind of gives you a breakdown of how Farm Bureau is set up. So on the left of your screen there, you see TFBF divisions. And so that is specifically what is related to the Farm Bureau Federation. We've got communications, which is what you will see, social media posts, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Those folks do a great job. They do a lot of our own video in-house, printing, and all that good stuff. So a lot of good work comes from those folks. Special programs are going to encompass our young farmers and ranchers, our Ag in the Classroom programs, our women's committees, and things of that nature. And then public policy is we've got just a couple of guys in public policy division that go on the Hill and lobby for things that our policy supports. And so Farm Bureau doesn't necessarily write laws, but we create resolutions every year, and we have a policy book that is read word for word each November and December and approved at our annual meeting in December. And those resolutions will go into our policy book. And that's kind of something that we use as a book of support. And so you all that are on here can go to your local Farm Bureau office and ask for that policy book and see what Farm Bureau stands for, see what we represent. And we have policy development meetings that are coming up in August. And so depending on where you live, there is a policy development meeting close to you. So if you have an issue close at heart that is not in our resolutions handbook, that is the time to go speak your piece, and we will create a document and get that into policy. So our legislators locally and nationally we'll see where we stand on that. And then you've got the membership division, and those are the folks that handle the membership, get the membership perks, things of that nature. One of the biggest things that we've got, if y'all out there like Ford vehicles, if you're a Farm Bureau member, you get a $500 discount on I think it's as old as a 2018 right now, to brand new, that you get a $500 discount on. As well as some choice hotels discounts and numerous other things that I won't get into. Then you can see, well, if I hear Farm Bureau, and this guy just sat here and talked for probably too long about a lot of stuff I didn't even know Farm Bureau did. I thought Farm Bureau had insurance. Well, Farm Bureau, we do have insurance, and they are our affiliate service companies. And so when Tennessee Farm Bureau Federation was started back in 1921, later on, a few years later, we saw a need for farmers and agriculture members in the communities to have insurance. And so you can see there we've got Tennessee Farmers Insurance, and that encompasses home, auto, and life insurance. And then the Farm Bureau Health Plans is different. So if any of you out there have healthcare insurance, we provide that as well. So then the Farmers Service Incorporated, a couple of good things that they do. Vera Ann was talking about being good at keeping books and accounting and numbers and all that good stuff. And I'll admit that's not something I'm strong at. But Farm Bureau's got your back there as well. We've got we've got field service folks out in each area of the state that will help you keep your records. We've got record books that you can have. And then we've got folks that'll come out on your farm and assist you with your QuickBooks and Quickens and things like that, as well as help you file taxes each year. And then we've got Tennessee Livestock Producers, which is a livestock marketing organization, not just for cattle, but for sheep and goats as well. So what y'all really asked me to talk about after that, what the Federation is, COVID-19 has had an impact, not just locally or statewide, but nationally as well, as you folks may well know. The downside is the farm economy was in an 8-year downturn, and so we weren't really doing that great to begin with. Folks may look back and say, well, we were doing better than what we are now, and that's exactly right. But it wasn't as good as it has been. So if this would have happened 7 or 8 years ago, we may not be feeling the impact as far as market prices as bad as what we are now. But you can see there in this graph, just since January, how downward the trend is for our markets across the nation. Unprecedented challenges across not just agriculture, but industries as well. And I'm not sure that we know what those final effects are. I think there's some things that will be a long term, maybe even a couple of years before we see the true effects of this COVID-19 business. So a couple things that we find that are disturbing is the supply chains for restaurants, cafeterias, and grocery stores. You all know probably as well as I do, you go to the grocery store a few months ago, you weren't allowed to buy more than 1 or 2 packages of certain meat products. And if they even had it, you couldn't buy what you wanted. So a lot of the shelves were empty. And right now we've got separate supply chains for restaurants and cafeterias than what supplies the grocery store. And even though the restaurants weren't open as fully as they could have been, there were a few restaurants around that kind of turned into a market. And so they started selling some of those products that they could still buy from their distributors, whoever that might have been. Those folks were still receiving shipments. And so maybe they weren't cooking as many steaks or as many potatoes and serving them on a plate to their customers. They were selling those potatoes in 50-pound sacks out the back door as a grocery store. So we need to look more into that supply chain and see where the downside and the downturn of that was. So a few things in response to COVID-19 nationally. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, the CARES Act. A lot of us out there may have received the $1,200 per person, plus if you had a few kids, you might have got a little bit more. This provided a number of food and agriculture-related benefits, including funding to ensure children still received a nutritious and affordable food, and ensure financial resources to farmers. So there were some folks that grew potatoes out in Idaho that were needing a market, and this CARES Act enabled them to sell their potatoes in a different way and not have those potatoes go bad. And that's just one example. There are many more out there. Small Business Administration, as you can see there, the EIDL program, Economic Injury Disaster Loans. So you could apply for up to $10,000 emergency grant, and those grants do not have to be paid back. For example, if you've got one employee, you could get a $1,000 grant through this program, and it doesn't have to be paid back. So up to that $10,000. So there's some good things that are out there, including the Paycheck Protection Program, which was a good program. I think that has since ended. I'm not sure if that will come back into play if COVID continues to be an issue. But hopefully, if you're out there and you've got folks on payroll, you are able to take advantage of that payroll protection program. So we're hoping the next stimulus package from the Senate will have a lot of good things in it. We're keeping an eye on that. Um, we're going to see what the final legislation piece is going to look like in relation to the pandemic. So, it's hard to get a lot of things done when all anybody wants to talk about locally and nationally, all they want to talk about is COVID-19. So there will probably be a lot of legislature, state and nationally, in the coming year, maybe even 2 years, that are related to COVID-19. A few things that um, proposals that we're gonna keep an eye on: the negotiated cattle trade, MCOOL, country origin of labeling, and processor capacity inspection. The processors is one issue for our meat that we didn't have. Grocery stores had empty shelves, and so those folks had to shut down due to COVID, and that caused a disruption in the supply chain. And I'm sure with this, I'm just preaching to the choir, but this is something that Farm Bureau uh, and at the state level and nationally, AFBF is aware of, and we're talking to those folks, if not daily, weekly, to make sure that they're doing what needs to be done for the agriculture community. So a few things, trade, the USMCA is in effect. China Phase 1 deal, the first purchase of $40 billion has been made, and looking at $80 billion over the next 2 years. Regulatory reform, some of the things that we got done: we got rid of WOTUS, which is Waters of the United States. And so if you're not familiar with that, feel fortunate. But what that piece of legislature did was and if you got a storm like we did, we're going to have a puddle out beside the house here, and several puddles down the farm road. And so in the WOTUS, that puddle on your farm road would fall under regulation by the federal government, EPA. And so you wouldn't be allowed to drive through that puddle. It would have the same regulations on that puddle of water as the lake down the road does. And so that's one thing that they reformed, and it's called now it is the navigable water protection rule. Sorry about that, navigable water protection rule. And so this new rule, what it does, it provides clarity that farmers and landowners deserve. Just because we've got a mud puddle in the driveway, we're probably going to go around that just to keep from making it a bigger hole in the road. But it's going to continue to protect the environment and the quality of water in our rivers, streams, and lakes. So gives us a little bit more flexibility in what we can do with our own waters on our farm. And of course, ag labor, it's always a big issue, probably one of the biggest issues in the farm community. Labor shortages being the worst thing. And due to COVID-19, we saw in some parts of agriculture some travel restrictions. A lot of our H-2A workers still made it over to work in the fields and help with a lot of the farming community. But those that were new to the H-2A program, they were slowed down in their travels. And if anybody traveled through the wrong country on their way to the United States, they were held back and quarantined longer than maybe they should have been. But that were some issues that we had to work through. A lot of those H-2A workers are here on the ground, and we're probably getting pretty close to our second wave of folks coming in to do some harvesting for us. Infrastructure, as we can see, infrastructure is important. Broadband internet has been a hot topic for several years. We've been on this issue for a while. As you can see tonight, I'm probably not the best to talk about the internet and technology, because I couldn't even get my camera to work. I'm sure it's a simple button that I didn't push or an update that I didn't do beforehand. But we'll also see in our Zoom meetings, as we're meeting more online, as our kids are going back to school, and that may be virtually, folks don't have access to the internet, and we realize that's an issue and something that we continue to push, and hopefully some areas are getting better. I think Jefferson County, just down the road, has some fiber that's beginning to go in, and so that's going to be in some places that either has no internet or limited access. And so there are some great things going on. All right, some state issues. Anybody got any questions so far before we get
We don't, we don't have any, but if you do, please put them in the Q&A or the chat so we can ask Steve.
Okay, good deal. So some of the new state laws of interest that we didn't get a whole lot done in the state. The time that they were there, they did pass a few things that we were keeping an eye on. There's a lot that we were looking at as far as Farm Bureau looking at some of the laws that were, or bills that were going to be voted on that did not get voted on. And so this is just real quick, some of the things that we were keeping an eye on that we wanted to make sure went the right way for agriculture in Tennessee. So I'll touch these real quickly. The livestock show is protected. And so you can see there kind of an idea of what that is, but where this came from is Davidson County last year the county government tried to prevent a walking horse show. Now, I will agree with most everyone that maybe walking horse shows they may not be always on the up and up, but when you get right down to it, there's probably somebody that's cheating at all the shows, even tractor pulls. You talk to somebody that pulls tractors, they're probably the biggest liar and cheater that you've ever met. If they win and they're good at it, they probably cheat a little bit. So, but what they tried to do, the county government tried to prevent that walking horse show from happening. And the issue we had with that is once you start with the walking horse industry or a horse show, we felt like it would be a snowball effect, and the end result would be 4-H and FFA and our young farmers and ranchers being prevented from showing their livestock at county fairs, 4-H's, events, expos, exhibitions, and things like that, not only in the state, but across the nation, that those kids do that. Well, COVID happened, and some of that has been prevented anyway, but there wasn't anything we could do. But so we protected livestock shows, and county government is not able to prohibit them from happening within the county. NRCS string bait stabilization projects, and so what that is, the long and short of that is they were required to have third-party mitigation in order to get some of the string bait stabilization projects completed, because at some point someone felt like NRCS guidelines were not enough, when in fact they were probably enough and then some. And so we got rid of that. So if you've got a stream bank that needs stabilizing, to get a permit for that will be a lot quicker and easier process than it was just last year. And then the Equine Health Advisory Commission, just want to make sure that we've got folks that are studying and making recommendations on issues related to the equine health and to promote health of horses and healthy equine breeding. And so that's something else that we got done in the state. You can see here this graph shows the state's budget, and everything from August to March, all that green is good, positive of 29 million in August and 139 million in September, and things are booming. And then you get over there to April, and all of a sudden we're at a decline of 694 million. And we've lost, as far as the state's revenue, we've lost every month since. And it has decreased to some degree, but the loss doesn't seem to be as great as what they may have anticipated. So you can see there, The year-to-date, 15.4 billion is what's expected, and collected so far 13.9. So we're not far off track. So the governor did. They passed the balanced budget. As you can see, general funds shortfall in that 1.5 billion over those 2 fiscal years. There was a cut in the budget, but we wanted to, and you think, well, why does Farm Bureau care about the state's budget? Well, there's a lot of stuff in the state's budget related to the Department of Agriculture, as you heard Vera Ann reference many times, including the Ag Enhancement Program, which is about $21 million that goes back to the hands of Tennessee producers to upgrade facilities or increase profitability and efficiency. And so we wanted to make sure in that budget cut that those funds weren't coming out of agriculture related programs. And so they have not so far. They were able to make the cuts without causing too many disruptions across the state. And so far, they've not had to dip into the rainy day fund to this date. So Bill Lee and his staff and all the legislators that worked on the budget, we feel like done a great job and are doing a great job in getting into that rainy day fund. So a couple of websites you can go to here to see more on our policy. And I said you could go to a Farm Bureau office and get that policy book if you'd like to see it. There's also an American Farm Bureau policy book that you can get. However, both of those are available online, and that TennesseeFarmBureau.org/policy information will take you to that, and you can check out what we support now. And if there's anything we need to change, we'd love to hear from you. Tennessee sales tax exemption, if you're not aware of that yet, I'd highly recommend checking that out, TennesseeFarmBureau.org/ag sales tax. Simple application. You may have heard the neighbor talking about it if you don't have it already. Call your local extension office if you need any help filling that out. It's a very simple process. The only downside is you have to show at least $1,000 of farm income. So if it's something, that you've just started in the last couple of months, this sales tax exemption is not something you'll be able to apply for yet. But come next year, you can apply for that. If you do have some form of showing that $1,000 of farm income within this year, if you've got proof of that, then you can go ahead and apply for that. And so that's a big savings back to you as well. We just want to mention this, Farm Bureau, we try to take care of you in any way we can. I know there's a lot of stress going on right now. I talked to a guy yesterday that had several acres of peppers and tomatoes, and he was having issues with irrigation, and he was struggling pretty bad and felt like that he was just going to have to bush hog the crop and file bankruptcy if something couldn't get done with irrigation, and hopefully we got that resolved for him and helped him out. But we know there are issues out there. So, and not saying that you all on this call, but it may be your neighbor, your friend that might need to talk to somebody. So jot that number down, 800-273-8255. If you do feel like you need to talk to somebody, if you'd rather text it, there's a number on there for that. This year's a big year. I'm not sure where everybody's from, but we've got Senate races, District 1 congressional race, and we're going to choose a president come November. So we want to make sure if you've got that census information, fill it out, send it back in, and make sure you're counted. Because it is important in rural areas that we get as many people counted as possible, because if we don't have the numbers, our votes won't get counted as accurately as they would have. And I Farm, I Vote is a big initiative, and so you can go on the Twitter and Instagram, and a lot of our young farmers and ranchers have been posting videos and pictures and talking about how important farming is. So make sure you fill out that census and go vote when it's time. Early voting has started, so go voice your opinion in that. Couple things just want to leave you with. Vera Ann talked about all the insurance that she's got, and I talked a little bit briefly about what we have. Here are some things that you might look into. Two things I want to tell you. Go talk to your insurance agent, whether you've got Farm Bureau insurance or not. I would like to say I hope everybody on this call does, but I realize that's not the reality, and I'm okay with that. But whoever your insurance agent is, Farm Bureau or not, go have a conversation with them. Make sure the policy that you have will line up with what you're doing on your farm, especially if you're agritourism. Sit down, have the conversation, tell them what you're doing, ask the questions, throw some scenarios by them. If this happens, am I covered? If that happens, am I covered? Now, they're probably going to give you an it depends, because it does. There are several factors that play into coverage or not, and that's why I want you to go talk to them. I want you to make sure you're covered. And if nothing else, get you an umbrella policy. Umbrella policy will fall into place when your other insurance falls short of covering you or any other lawsuits that may come to place. And this isn't just personal, but on the farm as well. If you're hauling livestock, if you're hauling hay, if you're hauling a load of pumpkins, if you're hauling squash in the back of your car, it's probably a good thing to have some type of umbrella insurance. Just throw that up there. How to join, call your local Farm Bureau office. You don't have to have insurance to be a member. If you just want to be a member of Farm Bureau, have a voice in our policy development, get all the great membership benefits, choice hotels, Ford rebates, all the other stuff that the membership involves, as well as that tax information I talked about, that Farmer Service Incorporated. If you want to have someone help you with your taxes, that is only available to Farm Bureau members. And so if you come in to do that, they're going to ask you that you pay the $30 membership fee. That is an annual fee. But if you go stay at a choice hotel for 2 nights, you will have more than paid for that membership fee. And so not to mention all the other great benefits and advocacy efforts that we provide to you in the state and national as well. Here's all Facebook, Twitter, AFBF, all those good folks there. Sign up for all that good stuff. We post a lot of things on there on Twitter and Instagram daily. So we look forward to getting a follow and a like, and hopefully y'all reach out to us if you've got any issues. And I'll leave you with that. There's my contact information, email, cell phone number, however you want to reach out. If you've got an issue, email, call me, text me, whatever works best for you, and we'll do our best to make sure that your voice is heard. With that, I appreciate your all's time. I hope I've not confused anybody, but made the muddy water a little bit clearer, hopefully.
Stephen, we've got a few questions for you here.
Okay.
Somebody on the call actually lives on 5 acres in South Carolina, and do you know if they have a similar organization in South Carolina? And is there a minimum acreage to join?
No. So I'll answer those in reverse. There's not a minimum acreage to join. You don't have to have a farm to be a Farm Bureau member. And that's not just insurance related. You can live in an apartment in the city and be a Farm Bureau member. And South Carolina does have a very active Farm Bureau. I will say Farm Bureau Tennessee is the best one in the nation, but our friends and neighbors over in South Carolina, they do a really good job as well. So just you should be able to find them. They're pretty local folks as well. So reach out and go have a conversation with those folks in South Carolina.
And isn't Tennessee the only one that owns their own insurance company? Everybody else has to go in with another entity, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. A lot of the other states have progressive insurance or something else that is their insurance provider. We do provide that ourselves. That's
Yeah.
right.
So that makes you very unique to other farm bureaus. Somebody wants to know, what are the primary liability concerns when you have agritourism and you pick operations in particular, COVID aside, you know? Uh,
Yeah. So I'll put my 2 cents in there, and Vera Ann can probably answer this better than me. But the liability issue you've got is anytime somebody steps foot on your operation, you have a liability. If they trip and fall over anything, whether it's a rock turned the wrong way, a steeple that's raised up on the fabric, or a corn stalk that isn't low enough, and they trip over it and get hurt, they're going to try to sue you for what you got and more.
Right. Exactly, Stephen. Exactly.
And that's for you pick as well. You know, you might think, well, it's simple and innocent. Somebody coming on the farm and walking down the row and picking strawberries and taking pictures and having a big time. But you know, if they get stung by a wasp or trip over the end of the drip line, it's just the same for you pick. And in my opinion, the liability is going to be the same for you pick as it is a pumpkin patch or a corn maze.
and Vera Ann, somebody asked why you don't have a petting zoo. You want to tell them
Oh,
why?
liability insurance. I do not want a petting zoo and the problems and the risk that will go with having animals where people are handling. That's just something we've always chosen not to do. Back when we started the Tennessee Agritourism Association, getting the liability law warning sign passed was a top priority for us. And without Farm Bureau and Roseanne on Farm Bureau, we would not have that passed. They were very instrumental in helping us as an association know what to do, how to go about it, to get that warning sign that you saw available. And that doesn't mean that somebody can't sue you, because they will, but at least it gives us a little bit of cushion, when and if you would be sued. But yeah, that's always a concern. Safety is my top priority here. If you're ever here when I have people here, I'm probably looking through you and over you and around you at all times, making sure everybody's where they're supposed to be and in their place and not doing something they shouldn't be doing.
Okay. I think that's all of our questions. Does anyone have any other questions they want to either put in the chat box or in the Q&A? But I think that maybe you've answered all our questions. Stephen and Vera Ann, again, thank you for adding in to what we said about insurance. I will tell you that I am prejudiced toward Farm Bureau insurance. They've covered a lot of things for my family and our farm over the years. And because they are farm related, I think they understand the industry better. And if you're in agritourism, as Stephen said, you definitely need, before you even start to do it, go find out what you need. For example, I had an intern on the farm that I felt like I needed just a little extra insurance for the so many man days that person was going to be on the farm. And I think it was like $10 or $15 to cover that intern for the whole year for 100 man days. And that was worth it to me, and cheaper than anything else I could have done anywhere else. So again, thank you, Stephen. Do you have any final things you'd like to ask? Somebody has also asked about farm security. What do you suggest? You got any thoughts on that, Stephen?
Probably the best farm security you can have is a locked gate at the road. But if somebody wants in, they'll get through that. I'm not sure exactly what the question might be in relation to, but anything you can do to further protect yourself, I feel like you're in better shape. Whether that's a camera, a driveway alarm, a good padlock on the gate. Make sure you got good fences, keep those livestock in. I think that's about the best you can do.
Stephen, do you know, I don't know this, is Tennessee a fence in or fence out state. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes, ma'am. Both. So both landowners are responsible for maintaining perimeter fence. So if Vera Ann's got a good perimeter fence around her cattle, and just on the other side, her neighbor's got a great patch of sweet corn, and those cattle get out of her fence for some reason. And the neighbor with the sweet corn does not have a fence around the sweet corn, Vera Ann's not liable for that because it's a fence out as well. So you're responsible for keeping them in, and your neighbor's responsible for keeping them out. So a lot of those perimeter fence or line fences should be maintained on a joint understanding. Now, a lot of times neighbors don't want to share that cost, and I understand that, and I've got that issue at our places as well. But it's our responsibility to make sure our livestock are cared for. So you want to make sure you have those good perimeter fences.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Stephen, and we sure appreciate the advocacy that Farm Bureau does for us here in this state and the strength that you have.
We appreciate you all. If it's okay, I'll sign off, and you all have my number and email. If any of the folks on here have any questions at all at any time, no matter where they're from, South Carolina or Georgia or Nashville, have them reach out, and we'll make sure they're taken care of.
Okay. Thank you.